Welcome to 122 and an eighth. This is the Cowabunga Chronicles. I'm your resident sewer rat, Chris, joined by
Craig Ray.
And we are here usually to explore the sewers of the TMNT IDW collection. However, this is a special bonus episode because we got a couple of turtley things to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Really excited. We're going to cover, first we're going to talk about the release party for the new Jason Era #1. And then I thought in sort of a la or in the same spirit as your recent R2C2E2. Did I get that right?
Yes.
I went to a con the same weekend on a different coast.
Yeah, because you invited me to go out and I couldn't because we were going to C2E2. It ended up on the same weekend. So
yeah.
divide and conquer.
Yeah, divide and conquer, and it was cool to text each other during that, like both of our conquests, so to say, happening. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Portsmouth Mini Con, which was the 40th anniversary of the TMNT.
To the weekend, right? Like it was the weekend.
1 weekend ahead.
Okay.
Because the actual release date was Free Comic Book Day. And so they weren't able to pull everybody together for Free Comic Book Day in a lot of ways, especially Jetpack, Ralph DiBernardo being so instrumental in their history and everything.
Right.
So it was at a brewery on Pease Air Force Base, actually, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But we'll get more into that in a minute. Let's talk about the new happenings.
Sure. So for those of you that follow us on social media and, all of that business, we announced yesterday that on the 24th of July, which is the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, so that Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we are going to be having a release party, but we're going to be having pizza party, which was very fitting, obviously, for the Turtles. So there are multiple ways of gaining entry into said party. There is the easiest way, in the way that I suggest, which is start a poll with us, or if you already have a poll with us, all you have to do is pull one copy of the TMNT book. So, A cover, B cover, if you get an incentive ratio, whichever book that may be, you're automatically on the list. So as of right now, I mean, our pizza party is already, 40, 50 people deep.
Pretty awesome.
And then the other way of getting attendance into the party is on our website. If you look under pizza party, if you can just search it there, there's also a link to it off of the main page. Like there's that sliding thing off the main. Yeah. You can buy a ticket there. That method costs $7.50, but that also still comes with an issue of the Turtle book, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. So I'm actually really excited. We haven't done anything at the store quite like this. Like we've rented out the theater for the Flash, and we've done other events and stuff like that. But the pizza party idea was kind of a no-brainer. I think you and I have talked a little bit as far as like further ideas of what we can do. Like we'd consider, we might, set up a projector and maybe try to watch the old, films and stuff like that too. But it being a Wednesday, it might be difficult for some people to stay late, but it is also in the summer. So bring your kids, expose them to the Turtles. Like it's going to be pretty PG. You don't have to worry about that. Very family oriented, an excellent jumping on point again for anybody that's looking to get into the Turtles. And I don't know that we will have events quite at this scale for the rest of it, but we're going to be doing different, I guess, engagement opportunities for at least issues 1 through 5, because IDW themselves have been doing cool things. Like my understanding is they're going to be sending out, if you've been in the shop or if you've been in any shop rather, they've those stand-ups, like it's got Batman and it's got like the 8 slots for books and stuff. I think we're going to get one of those, but Turtles oriented, which I'm super pumped for because I feel like there's not a lot of that ever comes out. They don't send like promotional Turtles stuff out. So I'm really excited about that. It looks like they're sending enamel pins, like it'll have like the different colored masks. Like they'll send like,
I'm sure there's 4 at least.
There's 4 different ones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In quantities of like 10 or 20 or something like that. But I'm just really excited to see all the, IDW throwing their weight around with the Turtles. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like it's about time.
Right.
I mean, I know there's a lot of it and it's a steady, flowing stream as far as like there has been all the Ronin stuff and all the books are going well. But I mean, as far as promoting it like this, I haven't seen it before, which is pretty cool.
Something you touched on though, like the 2 ways to get tickets and join the pizza party.
Yeah.
Something we talked about that's really fun is like, so if you want to pull the book, you can pull the book, you can pull the series, right? You can subscribe to the series. So that's really the best way if you want to like continue on at least, I think they've announced the first 5 so far, but it'll be an ongoing series. You want to keep getting the books. But say, you have, a couple of kids or something like that, and you want to just pull it for one of you, but then buy tickets for the other so they get their book, but they're not pulling for the series.
Sure.
This makes sense, So just kind of our thinking there.
Well, and I made it at a price point even where if you don't care about the book and you more so care about the party, it's still the same price you would pay, like less if you were to just go get pizza somewhere, right? So, I mean, I tried to keep it to where it made sense, but also, if you just want to come to the party and hang out and see a bunch of people that like turtles,
People, by the way, that was going to be my next point is like, this is multi-generational, right? Like we've talked about this before on the podcast and things like that, but I have seen a little kid with light up shoes come in and I've been able to ask him his favorite turtle, and I've seen people older than me and ask them their favorite turtle, right? And that I think there's something to that spirit of the TMNT that just crosses so many generations. It's awesome.
Well, 40 years it's an impressive feat. I mean, that's this year. I mean, it warms my heart to see that because, I mean, to put it into perspective for me and the world I usually live in, I mean, they're halfway to Batman. They're halfway to Superman, right? Sure. I mean, as far as them being like household names and whatnot. And from what I gauge now, I don't see it slowing down. It's evergreen. And every single time that, they put a new spin on it. Like IDW is a completely new spin. The movies have been different spins on, like Mutant Mayhem wasn't the Turtles that we grew up with, but I feel like if you actually love them, you roll with it. And you're like, the Turtles are the Turtles, man. You're like, let's get down.
Yeah.
So,
you have seen a turtle get down, slamming and jamming to the musical sound?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what that's reminding me of. I think somebody said it best that like every new generation, the turtles can fit into that generation with that new spin. I think that's the best part. Like, putting 4 teenagers in a room to record updated the turtles to the modern pop culture language, that kind of thing. So, I mean, 40 years is just absolutely
almost as old as me.
That's where I'm at. That's what I keep saying. Is there anything else on the pizza party we want to touch on before we hop into Turtlecon?
Not really. Just that, if you have any questions, feel free to call the shop or message us, whatever. I mean, I'm sure we're going to continue on the Cowabunga Chronicles to, as we go through this. I think the other thing, I don't know if we're, revealing too much, whatever, but I don't believe that the IDW collections are going to be the end. I think there's more of possibly a transition into, by the time you would be done with the IDWs, they might have like trades available for the new ongoing and, anything that would be possibly Turtles adjacent or whatever else, right? And kind of keep it rolling. So this is just, we're very into the Turtles at the shop and things like that. So you can feel confident listening to this, or if you come in for the events, whatever else, that we're going to keep it coming. So,
and to that point, that's actually, if you are interested in one of the variant ratios or something like that, call the shop. Let us know.
Yeah.
There is not going to be a shortage of turtle books around here.
We're going to get plenty.
And with that order comes some rather high ratio variants and things like that. So we might do some kind of raffles or something like that. Yeah. Talked about a lot of different fun things to do around the party. So
we'll just say it'll be worth your time to show up to the party.
They'll put it that way.
Yep.
There we go. Awesome. So 40 years, Cowabunga, man.
Cowabunga.
That's something
Indeed.
else. Yeah. So I have some family in New Hampshire, so I was able to stay with them while I went to this con.
You're originally from that area as well, right?
Yeah. So that's what's weird is. So I grew up in Connecticut. I didn't have a comic book shop. I had a spinner rack. I think I mentioned this story before.
Yeah.
Grew up on the cartoon. I'm pretty sure when I was 3, my mother made me a Raphael birthday cake out of like the cake pan kind of thing. I think there were only a Raphael and a Mikey made of them or something like that. It just, So I always had these, memories of the Turtles.
Until you just said that, I didn't realize my mom did too.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
The mold.
Yeah.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think we're millennials. I think that's what happened. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, but had family in New Hampshire. Was really born in New Hampshire as well. And I grew up in Connecticut, went to school in New York, and then lived in New Hampshire, northern Vermont, before moving here for about 10 years. And have now lived in Fort Wayne for about 3 years coming up now, which is crazy to say. But it wasn't really until, say, college, I guess, that I realized that the Turtles were from New England.
Right.
I actually met someone whose father did some of the art for them. I was like, oh, that's cool. I knew they were kind of connected to Boston. And then I found out, no, they're from Northampton. I've been there multiple times, right? Like, they were originally from Maine, like these kind of things. So that was kind of always in the background of my brain. And so when this mini con was talked about and whatnot, I was like, I can't miss this. Like, I got to go. I don't want to miss, like, not just the Turtles history.
Because it was a murderer's row of guests, too.
I mean, that was just it. I mean, just and it was really focused on the original team and the
Mirage
up to Archie as well. But they also introduced a couple of new artists, which I thought was great, but definitely not the like IDW run.
Right, yeah.
So to say, I'm getting the list here a little bit more. But the other thing is there was an announcement made that Peter Laird was invited.
And he might show up.
He might show up. Even if he says he will show up, they weren't going to announce it.
Right, yeah.
And just basically out of respect for him, what I didn't realize, he's 10 years older than all of them.
Right.
So when you think back to like, Turtle Mania and everything, he had like 10 years of wisdom, mildly.
Sure.
And
or he could be 10 years further along with a family. And the difference of 10 years, I can tell you right now, is the difference between I've got a 5-year-old that wants to, sit around the house and eat snacks all day long. You add 10 years to that child, they're 15, and they want me to take them out practicing driving. And that's completely different life, right?
Yeah. And so I didn't really realize that until somebody mentioned that. And then, so we didn't know he was going to come. And so but in my brain, I was like, I'm buying the VIP ticket, because if for some reason he shows up on Friday and I only bought Saturday, Sunday, I would be sick to my stomach.
Yes, absolutely.
So I went all in, showed up Friday.
You have met Eastman before, but not
never. I've never met Eastman before. I'd only talked to him on live streams and things like that here and there.
You didn't see him. Oh, you couldn't. He was already gone.
He wasn't at Sunday of C2E2 when I went last year.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So no, I hadn't met him either. And so I flew in. I didn't know what to expect. But I had gotten all of the exclusive covers that all the artists had done for the con, so that was fun.
Yep.
And within an hour of walking in, I completed my Mirage run like that. I needed 3 more books to complete my Mirage run, and I found out why one was hard. It was the first appearance of Space Usagi.
Okay.
So made some connections there. Got those last few books, and I got to tell you, for my first like proper con going to like get books signed, I brought an entire rolling suitcase, like rollerboard, like carry-on, all of books, super heavy.
Because I actually went over to his house. It was like the Monday before it was time to leave, right?
You saw the sewer.
Yeah. Saw the sewer, which I will say, for anybody that's, I don't know, have you taken pictures and put it on your...
I have a couple of pictures. I post sparingly on the Too Much for TMNT. It's sort of like a pet thing that I do, but I need to post more. Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying, like, anybody that, if you put the pictures out there, or if you've seen it, it pales into comparison to like seeing it like in person. Like it's the way I wish my basement looked, but I'm into too many different things, and I have because of that, there's way too much of it. Like I can't make it look cool like yours looks cool.
And I only pick a lane because I would be about too many things.
Yes.
But
it was cool set up though. So I went over to his place, and on the shelf displayed are like the Mirage, like 1 through 10. And you're like, well, I'm guessing I should probably take those. And then, going through like the short boxes and things like that, trying to figure out what you were going to take and whatnot. So it ended up being like, I think what? How many of those folios? 5?
Well, I came back with like 9.
Okay.
The small folios, and then 2 of the magazine size.
Right.
But I did send some things out for Slab. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, that was the big thing with you coming over. I was like, I didn't know what to do and what to bring. And I definitely overwhelmed myself walking in with all the books without a plan.
It's intimidating if you haven't gone before and don't know what to expect.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, like I definitely brought a handful of books that I didn't need to get signed.
Sure.
And I missed out on like Archie artists that I had like their full run,
right?
Of that I could have brought. Ken Mitcheroni, he super nice dude. He's like, just mail them to me with a label. I'll sign them and send them back to you.
Sure.
For free. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, no big deal. And he like remarks every single one and writes cowabunga on it. I'm like, this is awesome. So I'm going to do that. So I show up Friday night. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. I'm like, but it was nice though, because it was a very limited number of people on Friday night that were there. I mean, Eastman wasn't there, but like the crowd wasn't there.
Sure.
For the Saturday, Sunday proper. So I felt a little embarrassed. I felt a little like, off kilter, trying to find the book that I wanted or whatever.
Right.
And so I left Friday having gotten a fair amount of books signed by Steve Levine, which was nice. Everybody knows Eastman and Laird, but Steve Levine was just as good as friends with them. Right. Michael Dooney, these guys are the OGs as well.
Right.
So he signed a ton of books for me. He signed a couple of video games. That was super nice. I heard some awesome stories from him about the movie. He told me that in the first movie when they filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where the company I work for actually is based out of, he told me that they were looking for extras for foot soldiers. Mm-hmm. So they went around to area dojos and got the senseis to get their best students as extras.
That's awesome.
And if you watch the movie, the highest ranking foot soldiers are actually senseis of their dojos.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just super cool. Like stories like that are really fun. I actually found out that my dad actually works with one of their best friends. And so I had this connection to throw at them, that was really fun. So, so I left Friday, like having a great time, but also like, I need to figure out a plan. So I laid out all my books and I actually put Post-it notes with every artist for that book that I would want signed.
Sure.
And so that helped me on Saturday a little bit more.
Did you get the poster yet at that point?
I had gotten the poster, yes.
Okay. Because you kind of knew you were going to be doing that as well.
Yes. And in my brain, I'll post that. I'll definitely post a picture of that poster. It was on one side, the original print to the Portsmouth Minicon 40 years ago, and then the other side, an updated one with all the artists that they hoped would be there. And so I came in Saturday with a little bit more of a plan where I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure like I get the poster and all the exclusive covers signed at the same time, and I'll just do that last on Sunday. So I kind of pushed that off. But I had heard and was told from Steve Levine and Dee Levine, his wife, that Peter was planning on being there the next day. So Peter Laird was going to be in the building. Right. And because I had gotten the VIP package, I had gotten like a certain color ticket that lined me up first.
Sure.
For it. So now I had to make this decision of like, okay, I need to get Eastman's signature on some books. I need to get Peter's signatures on some books, but you're only going to be allowed 2 signatures probably. So what am I going to do?
Right.
Right. And so I had the first issue, 3rd printing, and then I had my second issue is a slabbed one, so I left that at home.
Yeah.
If I had thought about it, maybe I would have brought it to pop it, but it's at a 9.4. So popping it's a little scary too. So so I had 3. I had issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, and then I had the Raphael. Yep. And to me, I was like, let's get the issue 1 and the Raphael signed by both. And so I got those signed by Kevin first, which was great. I had a CGC witness right there. Yep. It was awesome. Did a couple more signings around the room, and then Peter arrived, and they announced everyone to get in line. It was still a good 90 minutes to 2 hours in line.
With the VIP.
With the VIP.
Jesus.
And right as I got in the room where he was signing it, so this is like above a brewery.
Okay.
It's not a massive space. They definitely made the most of it for sure, but it's an event space by all means, but it's not the biggest thing. And so they did it, and they had a tent outside for some more like vendors and things like that. But primarily you're upstairs, and then there's like a small merch room where like 2 vendors were in. And so once I finally get into the room, he needed a lunch break. So he goes on a lunch break. He comes back in, so I finally see him for the first time in my eyes, right? This gentle soul of a human sat in a wheelchair for 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
Signing books for people.
That's a big deal.
I could not. And also, like, knowing the history, like, you know, there was a long time where Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird didn't speak for, you know, and then at some point, you know, Peter Laird just wanted to be sort of over the Turtles and kind of move on from it.
Yeah.
He wasn't really about it. And the saying at the show was, you know, Peter goes where he wants, when he wants, you know, nobody dictates it. And at that age, he has earned every right to it. Right.
Sure.
Like, and so for him to sit there that long was just astonishing. And so I get up there, and I had also bought some of his original art from a sketchbook from D. Levine. So I have a turtle drawn by him and signed. So that was really fun. And then, I got up there. He signed and remarked my Raphael, and then signed and remarked my number 1. And I shook his hand. I put my hand out to shake his hand. And the guy in front of me got a picture with him. And he looked up and he saw my shirt. It had it's a different art style than the Turtles usually are in.
Yeah.
And he told me he liked my shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, there's life behind those eyes. Like I would just be, I mean that to say, like, if I had sat there that long, like, I would just be like, all right, next, you know, like, but he took that moment, and it was really awesome. And so what was also interesting is because of that line outside for him, it thinned out the room.
For sure. I mean,
it made it easier to like get around to different artists.
So after you're out of that line, you could run around the rest of the con. And
even Eastman's line was like moving right along, you know. They had the original negatives from the first production run of their of the first issue there.
Like the plates?
The actual negatives, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
On light boxes. And his gentleman's name's Rich Horn. He actually took them, found one of the original presses, found the original paper and ink, and reprinted it.
That's cool.
And so it's the same size, weight, everything, feel.
Right.
And he has an exclusive run. You can look that up. And so that was really fun. There were rumors of number 1s in the building, and people were making bids on these number 1s that were available. I didn't really inquire, but that was
first prints.
Yeah, first print number 1s. There was one as I was walking into the show on Friday night. A gentleman was coming out, and he was like, hey man, have so much fun. This is so great. He's like, I just sold my whole collection. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, just I needed to. He told me some personal reason, and I was like, yeah, the number 1 in there, huh? He goes, yep, I had a number 1. It was like a 7.0. And I was just like, my jaw just hit the floor.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but it went to a nice guy, you know, and everything. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it did, you know, but I couldn't believe it. I heard stories of a guy who had 4 first prints and lost them in a house fire in 2008. You know, like just the stories on stories. It was really neat to see the camaraderie that you can meet with these, that you can see of these people who have gone to GraniteCon a number of times, have seen these artists a number of times. That was super nice. I was going to Mike Dooney. He was signing. There's some artists were signing for free, some were not. Some have other ways of income. This is their income. Right. Yeah. And so I think some artists go back and forth on that, you know, on doing that. And I'm just like, look, I respect whatever you respect, you know, and was just always trying to be extra gracious with like their portfolio or putting books down on things.
Well, and most of the time when you're at a con, I mean, you're kind of there. It's a collector's version of a vacation, right?
Right.
So you kind of view money in a different way anyway.
I certainly did. Yeah. Definitely did that trip. So I ended up getting my Last Ronins and Ashcans all signed and remarked by Kevin Eastman and Ben Bishop. Getting those 2 books, actually I got 4 or 5 books sending out for Slab. So that was really great. But meeting, even Jim Lawson, creator of Rat King.
Right. Yeah.
He's still doing books, right? Like he's still, Burger, Mr. Burger there is doing books. But I heard these like great stories from Mark and Molly Baudet that, his wife is actually who they modeled one of the belly dancers off of in one of the issues.
Sure.
That Mark, illustrated. I brought my Gizmo and Fugitoid issues up to Mike Dooney, who that was his whole book.
Right.
While I was there, I ran into a Gobbledygook as well, and got that signed and remarked. So just really fun all around. Like I said, I felt very fortunate to be there and be a part of it. Went home on Saturday and replanned for Sunday.
Right.
And I'm walking around on Sunday, and all of a sudden this guy starts walking. One of the security guys starts walking around with a bullhorn. And I had heard the previous day that there were some people that stood in line for upwards of 4 to 6 hours for Peter Laird and got cut off.
Right.
That he had to go. I think he had a lunch break and maybe 2 bathroom breaks, if I had heard correctly.
Sure.
And he tapped out. Right. Which he has every right to, by all means. He had this really fun sign that they had found in a Mirage basement that was of Raphael and the Mutanimals, and over it says, "Hey kids, meet comic creators here." One of the vendors walked in Sunday morning or something and offered D. Levine a sum of money for it. I'll just say it was pretty cheap for how big this thing was and how old it was. Not knowing that by the end of the event, not only would he have pictures with all the creators in front of it, they all signed and remarked it.
Yeah.
Every single one of them just skyrocketed the value of that thing. I mean, just incredible. So he's walking around with the bullhorn. Peter Laird's back. We didn't think he'd come for 1 day.
Right.
And now he's coming for a second day. And they're saying, if you have a white ticket, get back in line. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, I had a white ticket, but he took it. Now I'm really confused, right? And so I went up to somebody. I was like, hey, he took my white ticket. Do I get another one? How do I do that? And he's like, oh, you saw him yesterday? I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, then you're all set. It's only 2 books one time.
This is for the people that had to get out of line yesterday, was what they're trying to
start
do. Yes.
With those folks. And then they started with daily tickets, people that just bought Sunday or something like that. And so it was just really structured and really done well.
In a fair way where you at least possibly had a chance no matter what ticket you had.
Correct. And, Peter has gone on record as saying he doesn't want somebody to have flown all this way and then he let them down. So he doesn't announce. He doesn't, he doesn't like announcing. And this line, by the way, went down down 2 flights of stairs, out the building and around into the parking lot.
I'm sure.
I mean, it was nuts. And then they had different color tickets on each line on the lawn to add on to the end of that line. Saw Peter once, super cool to be in the same room and whatnot. I had also Saturday when he was leaving, I was right in front when Kevin Eastman was saying goodbye to him. There was not a dry eye in that house. It was like watching time passes by. I mean, it was so special. And Peter had given Kevin a sketchbook, and Kevin happened to be signing a book for me when he needed to get up and go say goodbye to him.
Right.
So it was just neat to be in that moment and to capture that. And so I have some pictures of them together.
Sure.
I watched Kevin Eastman give him a kiss on the forehead. Just very touching, touching moment. So in any event, I keep on my plan, get as many Archie books as done as I can, get to Jim Lawson, and Ben Bishop. And then I start going around with my exclusive covers and my poster. And thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to get everybody's signature on this except Peter Laird's.
Right.
But I also have 3 books that I need to get signed by Steve Levine. Very important. It's all good. So I have 3 books that I need to get signed by Steve Levine. And I see he was sitting next to Peter. Peter and Steve have just been best friends for 40 years, 45 years or more. And so I get in line at the end and I say, hey, I'm looking to just get, Steve to sign these books. And I walk up and she said, oh, well, we could have Steve do this many for this much and Peter can do another signature for you. And I said to her, I was like, oh, no. Like, I didn't want to like try to circumvent it, so to say. Mm-hmm. I was like, I saw him yesterday. She goes, it's all right. We can do one more for, this price. And I was like, fine. Like, I like almost threw up on my mouth. I could not believe that this was happening.
Right.
With more forethought, if I could think about it more, like, would I have done a different book or something like that?
Sure.
Probably. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting his signature on
the poster. Yeah.
Which I think is equally as special, right?
Well, arguably, I mean, there's way less of those posters than there are of the books, right? I mean, how many people...
Less of the posters and less of those posters, how many have every single signature on it?
Well, I mean, the experience. You always, you have that, like...
Yeah.
I mean...
In that moment, for sure. And so that was the kind of like the cherry on top of the whole weekend. After that, incidentally, I needed one more signature, and it was from somebody who supported the show and putting it together. His name's Ian. Shout out to Ian, because I ran into Ian and asked him to sign on the poster, and he was like, "Oh, can I get a picture with you?" Nobody asked for my signature. I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. Can I get a picture with you? That'd be fun." And I said, send it to me on Instagram. I said, I also do a podcast named Cowabunga Chronicles. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, I listened to that. And I go, no, you don't. There's no way that like I would run into you. He would be my last signature. So that was a very wild thing to hear that, one of our listeners is in New England, kind of back home for me. And I ran into him there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's the whirlwind of a weekend. What was really cool was being able to text you and show you the pictures.
Dude, I know.
Shaking his hand and everything, so.
I was pumped. Like, I was really, really hoping that Peter was going to show up and complete the whole thing. Because for those of you that don't know, I mean, I imagine if you pay attention to Turtles at all, Peter got out years and years ago, where that signature is a lot more rare than it ever used to be. And, like, in the early days of those Mirage books, nobody would probably ever thought they should even bother getting them signed.
And when they did, they didn't sign the cover.
Right.
I mean, which is like in tune with everybody else.
Right. But, it wasn't in vogue at the time. Now it is, right? So, no, it's mind-blowing. Because I mean, obviously, like, I don't know if we've ever told the story online or the podcast or whatever else, but like the first time you came into the shop, you walked in, you poked around, and you were like, I was like, can I help you? And you were like, yeah, I was looking for some turtle books. I'm like, well, why didn't you say so?
Yeah.
There's these special boxes behind the counter.
Yes.
So we've always had that in common, and we can talk turtles and stuff. And it's been like, I don't know. I was just excited. Like, I know, because the day that happened, that was the day we were at. So Friday was C2E2, and you didn't know yet what was going on.
We were told. Yeah, we weren't sure.
So I actually got the picture of the signature while I was at the shop the next day. And I was like, fuck yeah. I mean, it's so cool to like, because now I know, I mean, I don't know. The cool part for me is, and I didn't really do much other than be at the right place at the right time and stuff like that. But that number one, I'm part of that story.
Right.
Right. I mean, and it's like, it was so awesome that like, all these different events, like you coming into happenstance, coming into the shop,
sure,
figuring out the turtles, this and that. You were out at your wedding. I find the book. I get the book.
Yeah.
You get so that just however many hands it's, switched between now.
I mean, Daredevil has his accident,
right,
and the canister rolled onto the sewer,
right?
Like, kind of thing in a lot of ways. And I've so appreciated coming in here.
And then it gets signed in New England,
back home.
Even locationally, right?
Yeah, I mean, back home. Yeah. So it's like, I think that's the craziest part to me is So going back to what you said about Peter Laird getting out, I actually followed his RSS feed. I'm going to date myself. His RSS feed in college in Apple Mail, and I remember the day he wrote that he was out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's the end of it? Like, that's it? And the RSS feed stopped on his blog. it just stopped.
You're like, okay, bye.
I was like, okay, yeah, I guess so. Because he was posting really cool stuff and like sketches and stuff like that he was still doing. And so, yeah, for this to kind of all come full circle. And, you know, like I said, I grew up without a shop. And when we moved here, it was right around, I believe, Last Ronin 4 coming out. And
yes,
and only because I remember one of the variant covers kind of uniquely. And I had read 1 through 3, and like it was release day of 4. And I had, I looked for it a little bit, and then I came in here and tried it out. And I think you were only open for less than a year at that point.
Oh, like, definitely less.
Yeah,
than,
6 months maybe.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for Last Ronin. And he's like, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, I only keep turtles. He's like, that's awesome. And then I think that's when I really went into like pushing onto the Mirage and trying to complete my Mirage run.
Yeah.
And along the way,
like, do you have any of those? I'm like, nope.
Yeah. But then I remember like the second or third time I came in, I rode my motorcycle in because I had a backpack, because I had, along my way of collecting, found some steals on some books. And I kind of poked around. I'll always remember this. I poked around and you were helping people. We were really busy that day. And you were like, what's going on? And he's like, you going to tell me you have like a Raphael in your backpack or something? And I said, maybe only one.
Right.
Are you sure? And, it was an NES cover of 4, and it was a Raphael.
Yeah, second printed number 4. It was the first book that they made the regular size, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then,
so.
the NES cover. Yep. And sure as shit, there's a Raphael.
Yep. Yeah. And then you helped me grade my Raphael as well. So,
yeah.
So it's just been such an awesome place to be a part of and hang around. And, most people know me as a turtle guy, but I'm so excited for just one last bit before we close out. Just
hopefully a whole influx of new people.
Well, a community
to become,
of it, right?
Yeah,
like, and we're starting it with the people. We're starting it with the release party, and relaunching it, so to say, properly with the release party, and hopefully you all enjoy it. The interiors that we've seen for 1 and 2 is just wild.
Yeah.
And the directions that they're taking with the new Turtles is so fun, and we have so many different storylines happening.
Yeah.
Like I've said that this feels like, and I know I'm biased and it's a spotlight effect kind of thing, don't get me wrong, but with the Last Ronin movie coming out live action, with the video game in some kind of flux, with Mutant Mayhem again, with Tales of TMNT, I think we are in a more sustainable, not a bubble, of Turtle Mania.
Yeah.
Again. And so super excited for it, because it's meant so much to me growing up. So to see more people enjoy it, it's just all the better.
It's awesome. So I guess one last time for details, and we can close it out as far as the party.
Go for it.
All right. So the release of the new book, TMNT #1, it's a Raphael issue, is on July 24th. Final order cutoff is June 10th. So if you want a copy of the book or anything special, you have to have your order in by June 10th so I can accommodate. I will absolutely have copies. So, I mean, if you're just looking for the regular non-A covers, B cover, C cover, D cover, all the regular ones are going to do, I will have plenty of those. The party will also be on the 24th, which is launch day at 6 p.m., July 24th. You can buy your ticket online, or you can sign up for a poll and pull the book, and you are invited to the party.
And to pull that book, you go on
leagueofcomicgeeks.com if you want to start a poll, and then you have to link your account to the store. If you have any questions or any issues doing so, you can feel free to call the shop. All of us here have had to do it, 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. I brought this up on the, on the main version of the podcast. Like, this was my introduction just to comics in general. So if you are like intimidated by that, you're not sure what a pull means or what have you, stop into the shop.
Sure.
That you set up frankly set up my account with me.
Yep.
Did it all, put it all together. Help me understand what a ratio is, what a trade is versus an omnibus and all that good stuff. So, to pull a comic just means like, hey, order this for me. Yep. And
like
they can help you with that. Yeah. And so that's what that final order cutoff is so he knows like how many books are, to actually order and that kind of thing. So
final order cutoff is a fancy way of saying that's the last day I can put my order in as a shop. Yep.
Right. So I think we close out all of our Cowabunga Chronicles with a thanks for listening and
Cowabunga.